I'd like to introduce Terry, the father of the bride, for his speech.
Yay!
Welcome to Scott's best ever birthday party. As the father of the bride, it's my privilege to act as the warm-up man and make the first speech. Mine will be followed by the more important speeches of the groom and the best man. They'll be treating us to their words of wisdom. I'm sure they can't wait. I said it's a privilege to be asked to make a speech, but somebody should tell my stomach that it's a privilege. This is the fourth time in the last hour that I've stood up from a warm seat with a bit of paper in my hand. The speech, they say, should be like a miniskirt, short enough to be interesting, and I'm going to have to cover the essentials.
Make sure you wear a lot of those, please,
I had some help writing this speech from the person most affected by this marriage, Cole. Cole just wants me to say one thing for him. Ice. Scott and Rachel could have had more guests. They could have had less, but they wanted a few select people. Unfortunately, they couldn't come. So Cole wrote that bit. To find out how to cover the essentials of a father of the bride speech, I did what everyone does these days, and I cheated by looking on the internet. The father of the bride has 4 areas to cover in his speech. 1, to welcome everyone on this fine occasion. 2, to say a few words about the bride in a loving and balanced way. But that's going to happen. 3, to say a few words of advice to the happy couple. And 4, finally, to give the personal toast to Scott and Rachel. Apparently, there are 2 things to remember about making a speech. Firstly, have a good memory. And second, oh yeah, enjoy it. So please all enjoy yourself. Oh, before I start, one special mention for Auntie Flo, who couldn't be here today. She is 111. Oh, my God. Also, apologies from Joey Barton. He doesn't say why he couldn't come. I must admit that standing here speaking as the father of the bride is a much more daunting prospect than I used. The last talk I gave was hard enough. I was a guest speaker at the annual general meeting in the alcoholics wing of the Gay and Lesbian Society at the NEC in Birmingham. So I am absolutely delighted to see so many familiar faces here.
You're looking at me.
On to number 1. On behalf of myself, Terry, the father of the bride, my wife Jo, the mother of the bride, Derek, the father of the groom, and Linda, the mother of the groom, oh, and Cole, the son of the bride.
Yeah.
I welcome you all here on this special occasion for Scott and Rachel Clarkson's wedding, especially those of you who've travelled a long way. After all these years of saying Rachel Pierce, Rachel Clarkson sounds sort of strange.
Weird. Always been.
Being keen on the roots of names, I actually took the trouble to delve further into the meaning of the name Scott Clarkson.
Oh.
Nowadays, in fact, Scott goes back to the Bible. Scots goes back to the Bible, it means follower, like the side warrior. Clarkson apparently goes back to Roman times, and I quote, rubbish football team. So Scott Clarkson effectively means follower of rubbish football team.
Very good.
Newcastle supporter, I don't think he wants to be, he's just hereditary. Some of you may know that Scott chose a traditional route to ask me for my consent to marriage. He got Rachel to send me a text. It's true Shortly after Cole's second birthday, I remember it well, it was October the 16th, 2007, Friday morning, 15 minutes past midnight. This text arrived that just said, "Dad, just agreed to get married." Short and sweet. I replied even shorter and said, "Who to?" When I later asked him if his intentions toward my daughter were honourable or dishonourable, he was quite surprised. He said he didn't realise he had a choice. After a few years of practice, Scott and Rachel are well suited to one another. Both are easygoing, except Rachel. Both are respectful of their parents, except Scott. It's clear that they were made for each other and love each other very much. Some of you may not be aware of the dilemma that Scott has had to face this week after Rachel had her credit card stolen. On the advice of Ross, who is the best man and Scott's policeman brother, Scott has decided not to report it because the thief is actually spending less than Rachel. Anyway, enough of Scott and onto my loving and balanced words about Rachel. I must start by saying, don't you think she looks absolutely gorgeous?
Yeah.
I'm so proud to be stood up here with her father. Rachel helped me with that. She's really grown up quickly, and it doesn't seem long ago that Rachel was running around the garden with no knickers on eating mud.
That's
One
last
thing
week.
Scott tells me, she stopped eating mud. While preparing this speech, I was getting a little sentimental and decided to get out a few photograph albums. Tears welled up in my eyes as I turned the pages, and the one picture that stood out from the others was a striking photograph of my precious daughter lying on her bed, dribbling and pointing at the camera lens. What a treasure she looked as she stood there on her little wobbly legs. I don't think any of us will ever forget her 21st birthday. Long before her 21st, Rachel decided to up sticks and spend some time in South Africa. But she couldn't stay away for long and returned to Carterton. To her old job at Peaches, the hairdresser, in fact. It was during a spot check of her work area that Leslie, her boss, explained, "Look at this work area, it looks like it hasn't been cleaned for a month." "You can't blame me for that," said Rachel, "I've only been back a fortnight." All joking apart, at this point, I am the proudest man in the world. Rachel has been a model daughter, and I couldn't love her more. The fact that Rachel has turned out to be the perfect daughter was due mainly to my loving wife, Jo. And I'd like to take this opportunity to make a private toast to Jo. Anything for a treat. On to my first job, which is to offer bits of advice. Mainly for Scott, really.
Hold on tight.
All married couples know the secret of successful marriage. They are communication and compromise, persistence and patience, tolerance and forgiveness. Failing that with effective memory. It also helps, of course, if the husband's always prepared to take the blame for everything.
We do.
Scott, now that you are married, Rachel will always have the last word in any argument. Any word that you come out with afterwards is obviously the start of a whole new argument. Remember, when you buy her flowers, it proves you're guilty. But of course, beware the far more serious consequences of not buying her flowers. Remember that a man who gives in when he is wrong is a wise man, but a man who gives in when he is right is married. The two most important words in your marriage will be, "Yes, dear." Everyone needs a wife, because sometimes things go wrong and you can't blame on the government. Of course, marriage isn't just about finding the perfect partner, but also about being one. Scott and Rachel have made a success of their lives so far, so I'm sure that their marriage will be just as successful. While researching this speech, I came across what may be a relevant story. Two TV aerials met on a roof. They fell in love and eventually married. The wedding was pretty average, but the reception was brilliant. So my final duty, like what I always say, is to propose a toast to Scott and Rachel. So please be upstanding. Come on, internet says you've got to stand up. To the two of you, keep your marriage brimming with love in the loving cup. Whenever you're wrong, admit it. And whenever you're right, shut up. So let's please drink the most important toast of the day to the two most important people of the day, to the bride and groom.
Yeah.
Oh,